attic. And when they went to his attic, what was he doing in his attic? We said that the rabbi had a project. What was his project? His project was to explain the Sefer Yecheskel. The Sefer Yecheskel was written by it was Yecheskel Hanavi, and there were certain passages in the Navi which seemed Moriana. There were certain passages in the Navi which seemed to be contradictory on the surface, not in sync with the language of the Psukim of the Torah. And he needed to reconcile and explain how it's not a contradiction. That's what he was doing there. And they went to visit him. And when they went to visit him, there was the students of Beis Shammai and the students of Beit Hillel came to visit him, and they voted on certain issues. And the Torah says you go after the majority, and based on that, they made 18 decrees on that day. It's a lot. It's a lot of legislation, if that's the right word today that we would use. A lot of laws that were enacted on that day. So we're now on 13b3 on the right side, the last few words of the page. 13b3. Shmona Asa Dava Gazru. We said that they enacted 18 items on that day. Now the Gemara wants to know what are the 18. Now we said on Friday or on Thursday, we said that some of them were laws relating to Shabbat, which was not reading at an oil lantern on Shabbat. If you're going to read by an oil lantern on Shabbat, there's a concern if the flame is dim, you might move the lantern to get the oil more closer to the wick, and that would be in violation of Shabbat, right, Mr. Haver? It's like making a fire on Shabbat if you move the oil closer to the. And also, we said you can't go ahead and delouse, shake out a garment from its little maybe bugs on Shabbat at the light of the lantern. Also, the problem is you might come to move the light of you might come to move the lantern and to make the light better. So those were some of the laws that were said in the attic, but we said there was 18. Now the Gemara now wants to tell us and what are these eight? What are the 18? And we're going to be discussing the next few pages of the Gemara. It's going to take up a number of pages about these 18. So, but first, the Gemara is going to discuss the Gezerod, the decrees that were made regarding Tumah, regarding contamination. And generally, like we said, with the rabbis, many of the rabbis' enactments are to protect the biblical law, and we'll see how the reasoning of the enactments was to protect the Torah law. The job of the rabbis is to make a fence, right? They build fences, right, Adam? You have a good fence. People don't come to reach all the way on the inside. You want to prevent people from coming into the house, you have a fence. You want people preventing from violating the Torah, you create a fence. And just to introduce a little bit some of the laws. We're talking about tumah, contamination. Maybe we'll give a little bit of an intro. The concept that something could become contaminated, right? Someone goes into a cemetery, someone in a tent, Josh, a tent where there's a dead person. If you're in a tent under the same canopy with a dead body, you become contaminated. A person comes into contact with a dead body, you become contaminated. A person comes into contact with a dead animal, say a dead cow that wasn't slaughtered, you become contaminated. That concept, that's a Torah concept. Obviously there are reasons for every law of the Torah. it's a little bit more not on the surface what the reason is. Why should you become, you know, unclean if you become in contact with a dead body? Why should that make you contaminated? And what does it mean to contaminated? So there's certain laws that as a result of that, I mean, if a person came in contact with a dead body, he can't go into the Beit HaMikdash. If a person in a state of contamination, you can't go into the Beit HaMikdash, you can't go into the Holy Temple, you can't eat Truma, Ma'aseh Sheni. There's certain holy things that you can't do, you can't be in contact with, you can't touch. You can't touch Truma, the Kohen or non-Kohen can't can't handle the holy stuff when you're contaminated. The person goes to a cemetery, they can eat food afterwards, it's not a problem, but you want to go to the Beit HaMikdash, you can't go to Beit HaMikdash, right? So there's certain restrictions. Good morning, Asaf, that happens as a result of a person becoming contaminated. That's why, but today we tell people not to go to the Temple Mount because we're in a state of contamination, and therefore, in that place we hold is still holy. Therefore, you can't enter certain places even today. We know a Kohen can't go to a cemetery, right? That will make him, or can't come in contact with a dead body. That will make him contaminated. And the Torah says that a Kohen can't contaminate himself with a dead body of a human being. Good morning, Simon. The Kohen could. There's no problem for Kohen to touch an animal that wasn't slaughtered, right? That level of contamination. That's not something that the Torah forbids a Kohen to be in contact with. With a Kohen, the morning can't go ahead and come in contact with a dead body, right? So, and there's certain foods, like we said, there are certain foods that you have to keep holy, keep pure, keep clean. Don't contaminate them. Don't contaminate truma. Truma is the food that you give to the Kohen, that you separated a certain percentage of your crop. You have to give to the Kohen. That food that you separated, you can't let it, you can't contaminate it, right? And now something becomes tamei. There's something called, the avatuma, something called the dad. The av is like Abba, right? That's the av is the chief, is the father of tuma. Like generally the avatuma is the source of the tuma. The dead animal that wasn't slaughtered is the source of tuma, and that if you're the dad, you can make a rishon, you can make a first level contamination, you can make and then when you make something, if you come in contact, let's say a person came in contact with a dead animal, right, and became contaminated. The dead animal is the source of the contamination, and the item that he touches is called stage one, is the rishon. Okay, that's like you have Eliot, you have Rishon, Sheni, Yom HaRishon, Yom HaSheni, first, second. So there's the source. You're number one. You're called the Rishon, the one who comes in contact with the source of the contamination, and then the Rishon, number one, comes in contact when he touches that item that came in contact with the source is the Rishon. That makes a Sheni. That makes a second level. And the second level makes a third level. Now, we're going to see there are certain items that could become a third level. Let's say you could go ahead and take, if the second level touches truma, the truma will be invalidated, right? So meaning you have there's the source, then there is the thing that came in contact with the source that becomes the rishon, that's the first. We'll call it baby one, or stage one. Stage one touches something else, that becomes stage two. Stage two touches something. Now, as you're going further away from the source, your power becomes less. You're further away, right? let's say the dead animal is the source, touches something that becomes the Rishon, right? And the Rishon touches something else that becomes the second, the Sheni. But as you're going further away, so the power, how far you could go, how much you could contaminate. So now when level 2 or source 2, or call it child 2, or maybe better to call it grandson. I think that maybe we have the father, the son, grandson, and great grandson. So when it comes to truma, truma can only once it hits the great grandson, it's already a third generation. It cannot make a fourth generation contamination. A third generation, when you're so far away from great grandpa, right? Great grandpa was the source, and then he gave it over to the son, gave it over to the grandson. So the son was number one, first generation. Grandson was second generation, and then the grandson came in contact with the great with his son, came up with something else. That's the third level. After the third level now does not have the power to knock out something else. It ends with number 3. Adam, is it being clear? Simon, is it being clear? Mr. Haber, this is and Asaf, this is some of the, now on a Torah level, to contaminate a person, generally you need to come only the dad, only the source has the power to contaminate a person. But the source, if you're the child of the source, you cannot contaminate a person. You're a child, you're level 1, you're not the source, you can't contaminate a person, you can't contaminate a utensil. That's on a Torah level. And also generally as well, for a person to become contaminated, they have to come from the source. However, food and liquid does not need to be contaminated from the source itself. You can contaminate food and liquid from the child. Child number 1, level 1, level 2 could contaminate food and liquid, and we'll see some more details about that. Okay, so let's with that background, let's look at the Gemara now. We're now turning to page 13b. We just said that 13b4 now. What are the 18 things? Ditnan. We learned in a Mishnah. Elu poslim et truma. The following have the power to invalidate truma. That if you touch the truma, you're not going to. If these people or items come in contact with truma, they will make the truma contaminated, and if truma is contaminated, it cannot be eaten. Right? The truma of the kohen that the kohen is supposed to eat, the truma is limited to the kohen only. But truma, by the way, is only a small demand of people can eat it, and if it comes in contact with these following things, the truma will become forbidden to be eaten, and they'll have a status. Good morning, Mark.
Morning, Rabbi.
Morning. We'll have a status like just like a sheni. If level 2 touched something, right? We said a sheni could make a shlishi. The second level, the second could make a third, and so too, and when it comes to truma, when it comes to foods that are truma, food that it was set aside for the kohen, that was the truma. The food we said that truma could become contaminated by either the source of the tumah of the contamination, or we'll call it, if you want to call it, is that called secondary source? I don't know. Or the thing, I don't know what the right word is. The source comes into contact with item one. That right? Item
Once
one,
removed.
once removed. So
Once
once removed,
removed.
the source is called the rishon. Two removed from the source is called the sheni. So if the two that are removed from the source comes in contact with truma, it will make the truma um, contaminated. But something that's three removed from the source cannot make truma contaminated. Like we said, if we gave the example of father is the source, son is one removed from the source, then the son comes in contact with the grandson, is two removed from the source. That grandson, that means the source is the source came in contact with one, and that item that it came in contact with something else, that has the ability to invalidate, if it comes in contact with truma, third generation, so to speak, third removed. This is that could contaminate the truma, that could invalidate truma, but it will not have the power to make the truma invalidate something else. So therefore, we will call it invalidate the truma, but not contaminate the truma in the sense, meaning it will invalidate it while make it contaminated. But when you call something contaminated, usually it means that it has the ability to contaminate something else. But here, the buck stops at the third remove from the source. If you're the third, good morning, Gadi. Good to see you. Boker Tov. You see, Purim was the time there was a kimu v'kiblu. They re-accepted the Torah. A new acceptance of the Torah. So here, Gadi is back. Okay, we are on.
That to say that the second remove can contaminate, and the third gets contaminated, but can no longer contaminate someone else.
Correct. Right. Cannot contaminate another food. Right.
But they, in fact, are still contaminated.
But they themselves are right. They're contaminated. We'll call them invalidated, contaminated. Right. They're right. Exactly. They are unfit to be eaten. Gadi, we are on 13b4, the top of the page. So when we're saying now, the Mishnah is saying, this is a quote from the Mishnah in Zavim, that these following circumstances, if they come in contact with truma, they will make the truma invalidated. That you're not going to be able to eat the truma. Now, what will be a case? What are the cases that will invalidate truma? Right? We all know if somebody went to a funeral and was under the canopy of the dead body, if someone comes in contact with a dead body and he touches truma, he will make the truma, contaminated. He will really invalidate the truma in a very much stronger sense than invalidate. It will make it tameh. But now we're going to have that's a Torah law. There's Torah law that you could make something tameh. Correct, Gadi? There's certain Torah law that says that a person is in a state of contamination that could contaminate or invalidate truma. But then there's certain rabbinic law.
So what's the difference between tameh and tumah?
The tameh and tumah is the same thing, but the word tameh and posel, when you use the word pasul, poslim,
right.
Usually it means it's contaminating it, but it ends there. It cannot go further.
That's pasul.
It's pasul, right? It's invalid,
right.
but it does not have.
Tumah and tameh still has the ability to continue to contaminate.
Exactly. So here comes the Gemara and says, if someone eats ochel rishon, if someone goes ahead and eats something which is a rishon, Now, what's a Rishon? Rishon is the first, right? Rishon is the first. Gadi, correct? So if you eat something which is a Rishon, that means, let's say a person came in contact with a dead cow, a nevela, right? What'd you say? Avatuma, exactly. Who's the av is the animal. If you come in contact with the dead animal, you became a rishon l'tuma. You're one removed from the contamination. You're not the source of the contamination. You're the rishon. Now the rishon. Now, if you're now you're a rishon. If you eat a rishon, let's say the animal the dead animal came in contact with the food. Didn't come in contact with you. The dead animal, the cow, came in contact with the food. So that food is a rishon. Now, but a rishon, once removed, does not have a power to contaminate a person. A food that's a rishon, meaning if the dead animal has the power to contaminate a person. The source of the contamination, which is the dead animal, he's dead. He's the source of he is the thing that Torah says is tamei. He's the source of contamination. He can contaminate a person. But a food that came in contact with the dead animal, the food is a rishon. It's one removed from it's not the source, it's one removed from the contamination. He does not have the power. The food has no power to contaminate the person. If you touch the food, you eat the food, you're not contaminated. Yes?
So what does it mean come in contact? The food's still going to mix with the dead animal. Is it being next to it?
Right. Just touches it. It touches it. Right. Let's say you slaughtered an animal, and then let's say you slaughtered an animal. Here could be a good case. You slaughtered an animal. You thought you did a good shechita. You thought that the slaughtering was kosher. And you slaughtered another animal, multiple animals. And then afterwards you checked and you saw you didn't slaughter the majority of the siman. Yeah, you're supposed to, let's say, an animal, cow, supposed to at least 50, a little more than 50% of the esophagus and the windpipe, the kona and the veshet. You have to slaughter two simanim. There are two vital organs of the animal that has to be slaughtered more than 50%. Majority, more than a majority, correct? You find out, you look, you only got 49, the cut only went 49%. So you mean you didn't do a shechita, correct, Gadi? It's not a kosher shechita. If it's not a kosher shechita, it's a nevela. But the other animal, Simon, you did a good shechita too. And you happen to put one animal on top, you put them together, you put the two dead animals together, right? So now the animal that you slaughtered properly came in contact with the animal you didn't slaughter properly. So the animal you slaughtered properly now becomes tamei. That food is tamei because it came in contact with a dead carcass, a nevela, which is tamei, which is a source of tuma.
So the only thing that really this kosher dead animal that's tameh, the only thing he's saying is the kohen can't have it. Is that accurate?
No, we're saying with the kohen, we're saying that the truma, the truma, if truma would become in contact with that dead animal, right?
You can't transfer.
The truma would become contaminated, right? But we're saying regarding a person, any person, could a person become contaminated? Meaning, let's
From
say
the food, no. From the food, you can. That's not my question. The question I have is, what limitations does food that's tuma have? Like, okay, now it's tuma, so what can't you do with it?
Right. So if food is tamei, so I got to be careful. Let's say that food came in contact, that animal came in contact with the dead animal, right?
Right. So that's too much.
So now came in contact. This food came in contact with animal that was not kosher slaughtering. So this is a rishon. Now this first removed food, I gotta watch. I gotta make sure that this food doesn't come in contact with truma food. Because if it comes in contact with truma food, it will contaminate. Because once removed food could contaminate something else, right? So I would have to be careful.
I thought you just said Rishon food cannot contaminate.
Can't contaminate a person,
But
meaning to say
it could contaminate something on its own level.
it contaminated food, right? It contaminated food, it contaminated drink, but it cannot. Food does not have the power, meaning food
On a person.
The person, right? Food
Or
cannot
food on food, yes.
Right. The food cannot contaminate will not be able to contaminate the person. A rishon, meaning the food that's a rishon, because it's not the source of the contamination, it received its contamination from something else. If it's a food, therefore it's once removed. Once removed, has no power to contaminate a person or a utensil. It can contaminate food, it can contaminate liquid, can't contaminate a person. Gadi, you wanted to say something or?
Yeah, the only other thing I said is what limitation does the food have itself?
Right. But hold on 1 second. Say it again, Gadi.
Only what they have.
No, if the animal was not slaughtered properly, again, the animal wasn't slaughtered properly, the whole animal is contaminated. And
I'm talking about the one that touches.
the one that touches he will, if he touches that, his whole body becomes contaminated if he comes in contact with this dead animal. His whole body will become tameh, and he would have to, he has to go to the mikveh. Now, so now comes now if you eat a person who eats the rishon, the person, good morning, the person who ate this, let's say this food, kosher food, delicious kosher food that came in contact, that we said that food was a first removed from the contamination. Let's say our case, the kosher animal that came in contact with the not kosher animal, right? The not kosher animal means came in contact with the animal that was not slaughtered properly. So the kosher animal, the kosher food came in contact with a sauce. So that kosher food is a rishon, is once removed. Good morning, Mark. And that now, if you go ahead and you eat, if you eat that food, so you are not contaminated. Nothing happened to you. However, the rabbi said that if you eat this food that's a rishon, you eat a food that came in contact with the source of source of tumah, meaning it's you ate something that was once removed, you become contaminated, that you will go ahead and invalidate tumah, that you will become contaminated through this right. So if in that case, rabbinically, this is the gezerah. This is what happened when the rabbis attic, when they went up, they made it. That you're right, on a Torah level, the food cannot. This is once removed, it cannot contaminate a person. If the person comes in contact with it, if you touch it, you will not become. But if you eat it, now the Gemara says, but if you eat this food that's once removed, the rabbis said if you eat it, and now if you subsequently touch truma, after you eat this once removed food, you will invalidate the truma. So therefore, say it again. No. But you will invalidate. You will ruin the truma, but that truma won't ruin something else. But if you eat this rishon, you ate this food that was once removed from the source, that became that became contaminated from the source.
Now you touch the source.
And now not the sauce, the rishon. You ate this rishon.
Oh, okay.
You ate this food.
You become Avtuma?
No, you don't become avtuma. You become like a sheni.
Oh.
You have a status like a second remove that you could invalidate, ruin, contaminate, but not contaminated to go further. But you could ruin truma. If you come in contact, if you who ate this rishon, you who ate this once removed item.
Well, how do you go? I don't understand.
Right. The word ruin means it's another way of saying you're contaminating it. But
It's already contaminated.
no, but if you eat truma, okay, look, we have three items going on in this case. Good morning. You have the source of contamination, right? Let's say you have the dead animal, the dead cow that was not slaughtered properly. It's called an avela. A dead carcass makes you tameh. So this dead carcass that was contaminated touched food that was pure food. Now the pure food that comes in contact with the dead carcass becomes we call it a rishon. It's a once removed from the source. That food becomes contaminated. It's tumah. Now, being that it's a food that the dead carcass touched, right? Being that now it's once removed, something that's once removed from the source, on a Torah level, its a power is limited it has the power only to ruin other certain things. Food. It could ruin food, right, Gandhi? It could ruin liquid. It could we'll call it contaminate, but it cannot ruin a person. If it comes in contact with a person, if a person touches that item, that food that received its contamination from a source, but nothing happens to you. No, here comes the rabbinic Torah. You're right on the Torah law, but now, at least so far on a rabbinic law, the issue would be if you eat it, right? Not so far. We don't say there's any problem if you touch it. Doesn't say you rabbinically it would not become contaminated. But only so far we only see if you eat it. If you eat this food that was a rishon, that was contaminated that was once removed from the source, what's called a rishon. You ate a rishon, which on a Torah level will not do anything to you because it's a food. It's a once removed item. But rabbinically, the rabbi said, if you eat this food, and then subsequently, after you eat this food that was a rishon, that was a first level contamination, it was after once removed, you ate it, you could, if you now touched truma, you will ruin the truma, and you will not be able to eat the truma. The truma will become pasuk, ruined. Okay, everything clear? Okay, we're coming to very heavy Gemara. This is called heavy Gemara.
Something that's
Once removed,
you ate it.
you ate it.
Now you're
Right. You have a level of tamah that if you now
something that's truma.
If you touch truma, pure. If you touch pure truma, after you ate this rishon,
This is now negative.
no, you're now in a state of truma no. If you before you touch it, it was pure.
Oh.
Now, but you touching the item,
So you can transfer.
you could transfer. No problem. Very good. We talk it out, right?
Something that's
Right.
ability that if I touch something that's truma.
If you touch truma now, you will invalidate the truma. So the Kohen cannot eat that truma. After you ingested the rishon, the truma, you ingested the food that was a rishon that was once removed from the contamination. You ingested it. Now, if you touch, you're not allowed to touch truma now. You in this state until you go to the mikveh, until you remove your contamination, you are not allowed to touch truma. Because if you touch the truma, the kohen will not be able to eat it.
Even though biblically that's not.
Even though biblically it's not the case, right? But rabbinically, you have the power to invalidate, to ruin, to contaminate. We'll call it contaminate, but it's a contamination that ends there. Meaning, if you touch truma, the truma will become invalidated. It will not have the ability to validate other truma, but it will invalidate, it will ruin this truma. You will not be able to eat. No. But let's say someone else wants to eat the truma. Meaning, I again, or even me. Let's say if I'm the kohen. But the bottom line is, once any person who is in the status who ate a rishon, if he comes in contact, he touches truma, and subsequently the truma will become ruined. A kohen can't eat it now. Before I touch it, he can eat truma. He eat pure truma. That's what the kohen eats. But once the person who eats a rishon, who eats an item that's once removed, if he goes ahead and subsequently, after he eats it, he touches the truma, he now ruined the truma. The kohen, good morning, Rabbi Mansour. He ruins the truma from being able to be eaten by a kohen. Everything clear? That is the first one of his enactments. It comes level 2, the Gemara says, another enactment was that even ochel sheni, not only if you eat a rishon, not only if you ate, in our case, the animal, or you ate a food that came in contact with the dead animal, which is you ate a rishon. If, let's say, the rishon touched a sheni, touched something, another food, so it made the other food a sheni. It's second removed from the source. If you subsequently eat this sheni, on a Torah level, for sure, it's no problem. Rabbinically, they made a gzeirah that you will also invalidate truma if you would subsequently touch truma. Same as one. The chiddush is we're not only if you ate a rishon that you would now, if you subsequently touch truma, you would invalidate truma. If you ate an item that was too removed from the source, same thing. If you would touch truma, you would invalidate it. Yes.
Other food touches something else.
Right.
Second, you don't even know. Okay.
Right. You have the dead animal that was not slaughtered properly, which is the source. It touches food, and that food touches another food. Okay. I want to wish everyone a beautiful day. Thank you all for joining. Thank you. Every minute counts. We're back tomorrow, 6:45. Look forward to the Beit HaMikdash, where we're going to have all these ramifications. We're having Truma back. Have to know how to wheel and deal.